Hey, welcome back to the garage. My name is Danny Milton, and this is Urban Outdoorsman SoCal. Today, we're going to be reviewing the 2019 Santa Cruz Hightower LT. Okay, so before we get into today's video, please do all those fun things to help me out. Like, comment, share, definitely subscribe to the channel, and if you want to see future content, please click on that bell notification to be notified by YouTube when those videos come out. Okay, so I'm 6'2", 230 pounds. Typically, whenever I'm doing a review for a bike, something like that, I have all my camera gear with me, so that could be anywhere from 20 to 30 pounds extra in my backpack on me as well. Anytime I'm doing a bike review, I'm always on an extra large frame, so any specs or geometry that I let you guys know about during the video will be for that sized frame. Santa Cruz is a company. They are in Northern California. You know, most of their parts are made overseas. They bring them here, put them together, ship those bikes out. They're a great company. They have great customer service. And as far as their warranty goes, I mean, you know, it's practically forever. So it's great warranty. So quickly, we're going to go over the specs in Geo. The spec of the bike is, you know, Fox suspension front and rear. Got the DPX2 in the rear. What else? It's got the XO1 drivetrain, so a SRAM drivetrain. SRAM brakes. Got the code RSC 4-piston brakes. Quickly, you know, as far as the geometry goes, obviously it's a 29er bike. The head tube is 66.4 degrees. The seat tube is 73.7. The reach is 468 millimeters. The wheelbase is 1,223 millimeters. And the chainstay is 438. The reason why I give you all of those geometry numbers, it's just to let you know like where this bike fits in as far as it being like a trail bike, a cross-country bike, or an enduro. That's pretty much the dimensions that are on this bike are pretty much middle of the road as far as an enduro bike goes. So the initial feel of the bike. Now, anytime you get on, you know, a demo bike, as long as they're maintained well, you know, these are most of the time they're top of the end models. So they're always going to feel really good as far as the suspension and, you know, the brakes and the tires and all that kind of stuff. The only thing you really want to be aware of is how the bike is going to fit you as far as, you know, the reach and the seat tube angle, pedaling on it, things like that. This bike, like I said, the reach isn't too long at 468. It's kind of like right in the middle. It's not too short like a trail bike. It's not super long like some of the enduro bikes, you know, like the Mega Tower or my Giant Rain. It's a little shorter, but it still felt really good. The seat tube angle being 73.7 degrees, 73, yeah, isn't super slack, but it's also not nearly as steep as like the Mega Tower, which is at 76 degrees, and the Ibis Ripmo, which is at 75. So this one's a little bit slacker, but it still did a great job pedaling. All right, Hightower LT. Heading out on the first little section here. Much more upright compared to the Torque. Feels good. Nice 800 mil handlebar. Reach is good. Sitting back. Pretty plush. Coming off that 180 mil travel bike, it's I mean, it's good. The suspension's good. Okay, so next we're going to talk about climbing. Now, climbing, this is kind of like a trail bike plus, or like a kind of shorter travel enduro bike. This bike did an amazing job climbing. You know, with the 29-inch tires, they roll really quickly over, you know, most terrain. Usually the only problem you have with a 29er climbing is in the switchbacks, and this did great in the switchbacks. The balance of the bike was really good. I wasn't leaning too far back because of that shorter reach. You know, your weight is balanced a little bit more over the center of the bike, so you don't have to worry about that front tire coming off the ground when you're going up some steep sections. This bike does have 175 millimeter cranks, so it does allow you a lot of torque, you know, through each pedal stroke, you know, as you're going up the hill as well. I did most of the climbing on this bike with the shock wide open. You know, it's a DPX2 in the rear. I really love that shock. It's great because there's very little to actually no pedal bob at all as you're climbing this bike through, you know, switchbacks, through technical stuff, you know, all the way up to the top of the mountain. So now we're going to talk about downhill. And this is not like a crazy long travel enduro, you know, bike park type of bike. Not like the Mega Tower. This bike, a little shorter travel at 150 in the front, 150 in the rear, but it did an amazing job going downhill. The suspension never bottomed out on me. You know, I did a couple of pretty good drops. I'll show a couple of sections right here. And that's probably about a 2.5 foot drop. The shock did get towards the end of its travel when I landed that. Like I said, I'm a pretty heavy guy, and it didn't bottom out. Like, there wasn't a real hard thud. I could feel that it ramped up, you know, really towards the end of that when I landed that one, but still felt really good. Going through, you know, the small bump sensitivity was really good on the shock. You know, it wouldn't bob up and down. You know, the rock gardens, the drop offs, all that kind of stuff. The shock in the mid travel area did really well, and as you know, as far as bottoming out, didn't do that at all. Like I said, this was a 29er, and 29ers have always for me been really good as you're going through straight, real fast sections, going over rock gardens and things like that as well. And this bike was no exception. It did great going through all of that stuff. The stack height on this bike isn't too high, not any higher than any other bike. It is definitely lower than the Mega Tower, and I didn't have any problems as far as balance, you know, front to rear, me leaning too far back, anything like that. This bike was great as far as balance goes. This bike did so great, in fact, that I completely forgot, like 3/4 of the way down this trail, you know, from the top, I completely forgot that this bike was a 29er. You know, if you're always looking ahead, you're not really looking at the tire. I mean, you shouldn't be looking at the tire when you're going downhill. You want to be looking, you know, 10, 15 feet out in front of you. And like I said, I completely forgot that this was a 29er until I actually slowed down in one section and looked down and remembered, oh my God, I'm on a 29er. It was amazing. Like, it was super nimble. It didn't feel like a 29er at all. Wherever I wanted to go, whatever line I wanted to hit, this bike would do it. The brakes would slow me down enough. The bike would just go where I wanted it to go. And it, like I said, it crushed all those rock gardens, a lot of the drop-offs. There's some little jumpy parts here and there. It did amazing. I mean, that's all I can say. It was really great in all of the different facets of going down this trail. Pretty good. So far, there hasn't been a single section where I really felt the 29ers like too slow. Suspension's eating up all the rocks. It's doing really good off the drops and the chunky sections. Yeah, that's a funky turn. That's a sharp little speedy turn right there. I got through it really easy. Woo! All right. Came in a little hot. That wasn't the bike's fault. Let's do that again. That section, I came in a little hot, but something I noticed earlier and I hadn't adjusted was the rebound. The rebound felt a little fast. I like the rebound set a little bit slower. So when you get into those situations where that front tire drops real hard, you know, you don't just crash through all of your suspension and then lose your weight forward and then end up going over the handlebars like I did. I got lucky and walked out of it. Yeah, see, it was just the rebound. The rebound was too high or too fast. It just dove, the front fork dove a little faster than I like. Okay, so overall, how did I like this bike? Did I like it? Did I not like it? Whatever. I honestly have to say, this is the first Santa Cruz bike, and I've ridden 3 or 4 in the past, you know, like the Nomad, the, what was it, the Mega Tower, a couple other ones. This is the first Santa Cruz bike that I really had a lot of fun on. It was great uphill. It was great downhill. It did everything I wanted it to do. And on top of that, it was a 29er. So you get all those added benefits of riding a 29er as compared to a 27.5. Santa Cruz is a great company. They have great customer service. The warranty is one of the best in the business, so you can't really go wrong with this bike. So far in 2019, this bike only shows that it comes in carbon frames. They haven't made an aluminum frame for this bike yet. And that being said, the entry level of this bike is only $4,000. Now, I know I say only $4,000. Comparatively speaking, that's a really good price for a carbon frame, you know, with all of this stuff on it. Now, the price ranges all the way up to $9,300. That's with like X1 and all that other kind of stuff, which you really don't need. I think GX drivetrain is great. The SRAM RSCs are a really good buy. I really wouldn't worry about trying to put an X01 or XX1 on this bike. Feel of this bike was great from the start. You know, I got into this bike, I sat down on this bike, and it just felt natural to me. I didn't have to change the way I felt, you know, how I ride a bike. You know, it was very comfortable in every scenario that I put it in. I didn't feel out of place on this bike anywhere on the trail, on the uphill or the downhill, you know, riding the road out to where the trail started. Everything was great, and it was a very easy bike to get into. So like I said, this bike was, it was like, it wasn't that big of a difference going from my bike to this bike or the 2 other bikes that I rode earlier that day. I rode the Canyon Spectral, and you want to watch that video, it's on that corner. You can watch that review as well. That bike did really good on this trail. I also rode the Canyon Torque, and you can watch that video right there. And this is the 3rd bike that I rode the day that I was out in Sedona. And like I said, the other 2 bikes did a great job. The Torque was crazy amount of travel. We won't talk about that. This bike did very similar, you know, it was a very similar riding style to the Spectral, but this was a 29er. And like I said, this bike did everything that I wanted it to. You know, climbing through the switchbacks, it did a great job. You know, climbing up through the technical sections, it was super easy to pedal. You know, at the very start of the trail, there's like a real chunky drop in down into where the water was, where the wash was, and then back up through kind of a little technical spot. That's it. Go ahead. And of the 3 bikes, this bike I rode the easiest down the hill, across the water, was able to get through that part really super easy. And then back up the other side of the trail, which was kind of technical, at least for me. I rode this bike the farthest up that part as well. So, I mean, that just goes to show, as much as I like those 2 other bikes, this one probably performed the best for me, getting through all of those different scenarios. And the last thing I could say about this bike is, whenever you're riding a bike, you just want it to do what your brain, you know, the line that your brain sees is what you want your bike to do. You don't want to have to like overthink it. You just want to see a line and you want to hit it. And this bike did that for me. That's why, I mean, it was all those great things that I already said, you know, uphill, downhill. It was super playful. It was a lot of fun. And this is definitely a bike that I would recommend to anybody, to an entry-level rider, to someone in the middle like me, or even, you know, someone who does this for a living or whatever. This bike is a great all-around bike. This bike will be great for trail riding, for downhill riding. Maybe not so much for, like, you know, like a downhill bike park. You might want a little bit more travel for that. You know, that's something where like a Mega Tower or the Giant Rain might come in. But for the everyday, you know, weekend rider, you know, someone like me, this bike is going to be great because it's going to do all things for you, and it will be a great bike as you're learning and as you're progressing. This bike will do it all. Okay, so thanks for watching my video. Hopefully this information will be of use to you. Hopefully it will, you know, either discourage or encourage you to buy this bike. I would definitely recommend this bike. It's a great amount of travel, great company, all that other stuff as well. So do all those fun things for me. Like, comment, share, subscribe, hit that bell notification, do all that stuff. And I'd really appreciate it. Thanks a lot. Last but not least, click on one of these videos up in the corner. One's going to take you to a rides list, the other one to a recent video. And always you can click on the logo in the center, the Urban Outdoorsman SoCal logo, to subscribe. Thanks.